This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. It's the morning after the night before, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dave Coldwell. How are you, Dave?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, very good.
Good. You look like you got a nice sleep last night, Dave. I look somewhat envious of you.
My usual 4.5, 5 hours, so I'm all right.
Did you not stay up and watch Tyson Jones?
No, I didn't know. Listen, fair play. They want to do what they want to do and stay healthy and stay fit. But I stopped watching Tyson after Danny Williams, and I stopped watching Roy Jones after Glenn Johnson, because they're two of my heroes. So I don't want to see him in the depleted state going on and on and on. So when this came about, I had no interest in watching this. I watched the interview this morning, and it was nice to see them both healthy and having quite a funny interview. I thought Tyson spoke really, really great. So yeah, it wasn't for me, but everyone each to their own sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to echo that, it's nice to see them, getting out of the ring as healthy, hopefully, as when they got in there. But moving away from there, Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce, a shocking end to a heavily hyped fight. Dave, what did you make of it?
Well, I did watch that one. I was looking forward to that all the way through. And do you know what? It was a different type of fight to what I expected. I expected more fireworks, and I expected like a brutal sort of war. But we got something different. I think Joyce just I expected Dubois early or Joyce later on, but I expected those early rounds Dubois to dominate and to land a lot of power shots, and that's why I thought it's going to be a big ask for Joyce to get through them. We'll see, can he get through those rounds? And I thought then if he can get through those, that's his fight. But it was never like that. Joyce took away Dubois' jab straight away. It controlled the distance, it controlled the tempo of the fight. His own left hand was great. And it was weird because to watch Joe Joyce in there, it looked like it looked unsteady on his legs maybe, and it's a weird sort of jab. But that awkward sort of style works for him. And obviously, like speaking to people that spar with him and stuff, they say, what you see on TV when you're in there with him, he's so effective at what he does. You saw that last night because he took everything about Dubois away from him. And also his head off center all the time was really, really impressive. And I thought it was a good fight. It was a very good fight. It was a very tense fight because you know what both men are capable of. But I'll tell you what, Joe Joyce, what a chin, what a head. Because when Dubois did land some big shots, he just took them, he just took them and just carried on, marching on, and he tied him up really well. And in the clinches, actually, it looked like Dubois was perhaps surprised at how strong Joyce was in the clinches. And when you get the clinches right, you can drain a fighter of energy quite a lot. And I think Dubois was surprised about just how effective Joyce was, to be honest.
You mentioned Joe Joyce's chin, and he took some big shots. Daniel Dubois, conventionally throughout his career so far, every time he's hit somebody with those shots, they've gone over or he's got an immediate reaction. How much of a decisive factor was the fact that Joyce not only took them but continued to march forward? I mean, he was relentless.
That's what it is. I mean, that's the thing that we all said about Joyce. If he can take those shots, the thing is that everybody knows that Joyce is relentless, and he'll keep on coming. But he wasn't relentless he didn't really throw many power shots. It was all left hand. It was all about the jab, keeping off balance. Sapping the energy, and you kept after the first round. You saw Dubois' nose was actually red. So it's it's such a heavy jab, it doesn't look like it's much. It looks like he's touching him. But obviously it's so heavy and so powerful because it's creating damage. You look at Dubois' face, that was all the left hand. Something that I thought Joyce would perhaps do would be throwing a lot, when they got up close, throwing a lot of those shots downstairs that he likes to throw. He didn't even throw many of them. It was basically all the left hand that beat Dubois last night. And it was, it's that relentlessness where you land some good shots, you're expending a lot of energy, Nothing's happening to the guy. He's making him miss away a lot of shots as well. Let's give him credit for his defense and his head moving off a line. It was fantastic. And so that again saps energy out of you, and especially these big guys, you know, they're carrying a lot of weight. And I think that's it physically drained him, yes, but I think mentally, I think that just he's not used to that, Dubois. And this is all part of a fighter's growth and experience. You know, when things go wrong, that's how they improve as fighters, and they can, you know, you give them a problem, they solve it. Give them a problem, they solve it, and that's how they become better fighters. And in the long run, it'll do Dubois, if he can come back from this mentally, it'll do him the world of good, because we've seen it so many times. Great prospects, especially knockout merchants, when they come up against, you know, Nigel Benn against Michael Watson for one, always, you know, similar sort of thing, you know, Igon, you know, I know it wasn't as intense a sort of fight in output, but it's a similar sort of thing, the young puncher against a bit of a smarter, craftier, older fighter. You know, Ben came back from that, you know, fine, you know.
Talk to me about you mentioned there, the mental recovery. Obviously, we saw the end of the fight where Daniel Dubois took a knee and saw the count out. How difficult is that going to be for him to come back from mentally?
I don't know the kid personally. I don't know how much of a thinker he is or anything. So I don't know. But that's a big thing. You know, it's very difficult, because what you've got to understand is for a fighter to go in there, take shots anyway. They're brave. You know, they've got big balls, and they've got something about them that's different to everybody that's sitting at home watching that's never done it. It's very hard to understand what it's like. But one of the things to be a top fighter, to be the best in the world, is that you have to have a certain level of it's like everybody's got a different pain threshold. You've got to be able to take that. You've got to be able to take your mind past the pain that you're feeling, whether you break your hand, break your nose, you know, or you know, your eye, whatever it is, you know. You have to have that sort of pain threshold that mentally can go through things like that. 9 times out of 10, in order to get to the very, very top. The fact that he's thought about it. It wasn't like an instant where he's actually he got caught with that shot in the eye. It's took a skip off, and then took a knee, and then looked at ref and let the ref count him out. It's hard to criticize, because you're there getting hit in there. You know, the pain. It's painful. You know, you have a swollen eye, you have a cut, you know, you have a broken hand or a broken nose or eyes. It's fucking painful. So who are we to say, well, you should have taken some more? Everybody's pain threshold is different, and some people can take more. But what I will say is, it's not just because you quit. He quit. You can't say quit is to give up. Give up is to make a choice. He made the choice to stop fighting. You can't say that's wrong or right. That's an individual choice. So it's not a case of, oh, you're a quitter, you're this, you're that. No, you can't say that. Roberto Duran quit in a fight. Is he not one of the greatest fighters ever lived? Miguel Cotto, my dog's putting me off. Cotto, he chose to take a knee and similar sort of thing, but he took a hellacious beating and then decided enough's enough. I can't go anymore. Does that take anything away from him? Look at what, you know, he came on. He won the rematch and so on. But everybody has a certain pain threshold where they just think that is enough. The worry is that for Dubois, it wasn't a brutal sort of fight all the way through. He didn't take power shot after power shot. You know, it was jabs. The injury came up, the eye came up, and then he chose, that's it. So he has to get through that. If he can get through that, if he's got the right people around him to bring him back, yes, he can come through that. But when I see people, the thing is it's the effects of what people say. You have to block that out, because I've seen it with when AJ lost against Ruiz, everybody's jumping on it. Oh, he quit. Then you see Kell Brook taking a knee when he with the Spence fight. Now, Kell had known that feeling because he had that orbital fracture against Golovkin and was pulled out by his corner. And then Kel chose to take a knee against Spence because he felt the other. I knew that feeling. He had that feeling. So again, who are you to criticize him for taking a knee? Because he knew that his eye socket had gone. He knew that, so he took that knee because he'd had that feeling. And it's like, whoa, the doctor told you after the Golovkin fight. Lucky the fight got stopped, otherwise you could have been blinded. So of course you're going to make that choice. So listen, I need, this has happened again. I need to get myself out of that fight. But then people are on Twitter and social media criticizing him and really vilifying him for making that decision. But then the same sort of people that were doing that with AJ, doing that with Kel, are now saying, "Oh yeah, but he's looking after his long-term health and this about Dubois." If you're gonna criticize everybody, if you're gonna criticize some for choosing to quit and calling it a day, you have to say the same thing about others. It's not because you're team Matchroom or team Frank Warren, right? People are too absorbed in this thing where they just want to back one promoter. Back the fucking fighters, whether or not you like the promoter or not. The promoter's not getting in there and fighting. It's the fighters, But if you're going to criticize one, you've got to criticize all. But the same thing is, if you're going to not make excuses, but if you're going to defend one, you've got to defend them all. You've got to understand the thought process. Everybody's got a different thought process. And like I said, everybody's got a different pain threshold. Remember Arthur Abrams, when he had that broken jaw and he carried on and his mouth standing open and it's like, fuck me, how can you carry on like that? There is a very minute percentage of men that will put themselves through that, and is that bravery or is that stupidity? But that's their choice. That's what they decide to do. Everybody's got, some people, you big, strong men. I know from talking to when we go from medicals, big, heavyweight, danger men, strong, aggressive men, scared of a needle. Then you get somebody else, they'll say, oh, yeah, stick it, no, don't bother. We all have different things where we can cope with things in different ways. And you hit a threshold, that's you done, and that's it. Dubois thought that was the right choice for him. Fair play. I hope he comes back from the mental, because he's only a young fighter. The problem is everybody else on social media that's going to dig at him. But, it just shows you that in this game, in this sport, there's so many different elements to making a top fighter. It's not about just getting guys in that are going to be intimidated by your power and going to fall over when you hit them, or they're the types of fighters that are going to get hurt and I've got a track record of getting hurt and you will just pad your record up to make you look like some sort of beast. Because if you don't get asked those questions as you're coming through, when it's a big test like last night was, you get asked the questions in the middle of the fight in a stressful situation and you don't know the answers of those. You need sparring where you're under pressure, where you're getting hit back, where you're in against people that are better than you. Too many people want to win rounds in sparring and be the top man in the sparring sessions, because then you hear stories about where people start saying, oh yeah, but he, Dubois, Warren came out this week or something where he said he just let it slip. Oh yeah, Dubois dropped AJ. I signed him because he dropped AJ in sparring. It doesn't matter. Sparring's about learning. It's not about who's the top dog in that sparring session. It's about learning. It's about coping with certain situations. Put yourself in situations that are difficult, so it just rounds you mentally as well. So when shit starts going wrong in a fight, when you can't get your shots off, when somebody's just ping you, and round after round, and you're not being comfortable in there, coping with it, thinking, okay, I've been here before. I've been here in sparring. I know what to do. I know how to adjust. I know mentally how to get through these things. I hope he comes back from it because he's young and he is future. He's a young man, and all these sort of experiences build fighters as we come through. Not everybody's going to be a Floyd Mayweather that comes through unbeaten and things, but these are real fighters. And the one thing that I will say is that Joyce was really, really written off, really written off. You would never have guessed that, this was a 50-50 fight going in there and both promoted by the same man, same team. It was kind of like heavily sad, but you get that in boxing. It's happened before and it's going to happen again. When there's something that you're grooming to be a superstar, the flagship of your establishment and your company, they do get the bigger push. But it's all right for us as fans to write off because we've got no we've got no bearing on it. We're not looking after these fighters. We're nothing to it. We're just fans. So we pick up. Yeah, he's gonna win. Yeah, he's gonna win. It is what it is. But you've got to understand that this is boxing, and when people always say, "Oh, no chance, no chance," you just don't know in boxing. That's what makes the sport so great.
It certainly does. And before I let you go, Dave, just a final word on Joe Joyce. What next for him? As you mentioned, a lot of the talk before the fight was Daniel Dubois could fight Alexander Usyk next. He could do this. He could fight Dillian Whyte. Joe Joyce is now in the driving seat, as Frank Warren said yesterday. What would you like to see from him? We saw Tony Yoka in action on over the weekend on the Friday. There's obviously the Usyk fight. They've got history going back to the WSB. What would you like to see next for Juggernaut?
You know what? I don't know, because this was a domestic fight. It was a good domestic fight. That's what it was, and we said that beforehand. I'd said that beforehand. People talking about the winner of this can fight, go straight up to world level, and let's get a big fight against one, Usyk or something like that. I get the thing with Joyce and Usyk because they fought in the amateurs, great, but it was still a domestic level fight. Get into the world level now. Start, top 15, top 10s, top 10 rankings. If AJ gives up that WBO, then yeah, Usyk against Joyce could happen. But you see, whereas you can kind of like, you could take the time with Daniel Dubois because of his age. With Joyce, it's a little bit different. So I would think that he'll be after the big fights as soon as he can. And why not? Because the thing is, with his style and how he's boxing, that is what it's going to be. How far up the ladder that can go, I don't know, but that is how he's going to be. You're not going to teach him. He's not going to turn into Sugar Ray Leonard or Muhammad Ali or something like that. He's basic. Obviously, the jab and the defense is getting better. That was keep the head offline, but the basic principles of Joe Joyce is always going to be the same. You are going to land some good power shots on him. It looks like he's got an unbelievable chin. So it's a case of, can you cope with that relentlessness? And that's how it's the patterns are always going to be with that fight. But I'd like to see Joyce now get some credit, and get a big fight and make some money. And Sam Jones he's done a great job giving it that for Joe Joyce, and he's going to be enjoying himself today because listen, he convinced me, because I was always like, I don't know if Joe can get out of those first few rounds, but if he does, as it got to the fight, I stuck some money on Joe Joyce, 7-12. Sam Jones, thank you very much. Joe Joyce, thank you very much. Because talking to Sam and telling me about how he was looking in training, how they'd improved how his defense was looking so much better, I thought, okay, I'm going to go with it. So yeah, Sam's done a great job in getting his man publicity and getting out there. But Joe's done a fantastic job in going there, working hard, putting up with his trainer. He didn't have his trainer for that fight, and all that changing. That's a big thing, going into the biggest fight of your career, really, and certainly the highest profile fight of your career. To have that go against you on fight week, it's like, shit. Again, he just doesn't care. He handled it. He went in there like a true pro and did the job. And Steve Broughton did a great job in the corner and working, keeping the game plan flowing and keeping Joe focused. And I just think it was a great team performance. I think, like I said, I want to see Joe now make some money, get some good publicity about him, build his own profile, and let's chuck him into the mix and see what happens.
Exciting times in the heavyweight division, as always. And as always, a real pleasure to speak to you, Mr. Coldwell. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks, mate. Get some rest.
Cheers, mate.